Monza ist bekanntlich eine sehr, sehr schnelle Strecke.
Formula One in the 1960s was a world where speed and danger danced a treacherous tango.
In number 12, Austria's Rindt, now in the lead, and he gets the winner's flag.
Race after race, champion after champion, drivers often teetered on the edge between glory and catastrophe. Among them, one man's story stands apart. Jochen Rindt of Austria, a champion who wrote his name into the history books even after he was gone. Rindt remains the only driver to have won the World Championship posthumously, a haunting fact that has cemented his legend for all time. Jochen Rindt was born in Mainz, Germany in 1942, but tragedy came early for the boy. Allied bombs killed his parents when he was just a baby. He was raised by his strict grandparents in Graz, Austria, but Jochen was a restless soul. Even as a teenager, he was obsessed with speed. He raced mopeds and cars whenever he could, sometimes on public roads, often without a license, twisting the throttle as if it were in his blood. He proudly confessed that even after breaking his leg skiing, he still felt more than capable of driving and actually raced with his leg in plaster. His elders despaired at the troublemaking youth, but they couldn't extinguish the fire in his soul. Rindt developed a larger-than-life persona on and off the track. He cultivated a deliberately unkempt appearance, thick crew-cut hair under a cap, rugged boots tied with string instead of laces, and an abrasive, confident manner of speech. Colleagues described him as resolutely independent and utterly fearless. He idolized daring drivers, for instance, German Count Wolfgang von Trips, who led the 1961 championship and died in a crash at Monza that same year. Such danger only strengthened Rindt's resolve. On track, he drove as if sliding on ice, often rounding corners sideways throughout the race. British newspapers gaped as an unknown Austrian shot past champions like Graham Hill in a smoking drift. These spectacular moves became Rindt's trademark, electrifying for the crowd, intimidating for his rivals. By the mid-1960s, Rindt was proving himself on all fronts. In Formula 2, he amassed an astonishing tally of wins. By 1967, he had collected 29 F2 victories. The racing press even dubbed him King of Formula 2 after seasons in which he won 9 races or more. He was equally bold in sports cars. In 1965, he teamed up with American Maston Gregory in a Ferrari 250 LM at the famous 24 Hours of Le Mans. Most expected their car to drop out early. The pair famously joked they just wanted to hope it breaks soon so they could collect the prize money. Against all odds, Rindt kept the Ferrari on the road and drove through the night like a maniac, clawing the car forward. When the dust settled, the unlikeliest of wins had been achieved. With that, Rindt added Le Mans champion to his resume, proving his talent was not limited to single-seaters. By 1964, Rindt was ready for the top level. He made his Formula One debut at the 1964 Austrian Grand Prix, driving a loaned Brabham for Rob Walker's team. A year later, Cooper signed him to a full-season drive. These first F1 years were mostly learning experiences. The Cooper cars weren't the fastest, and Rindt was still refining his craft. He moved up the grid step by step. In 1968, he joined the Brabham team, and by 1969, he was recruited by Team Lotus. At Lotus, he finally found a competitive car, Colin Chapman's revolutionary Lotus 72, even if it was known to be a bit temperamental. Lotus turned out to be the perfect stage for Rindt. In October 1969, he scored his first Formula One victory at Watkins Glen, the United States Grand Prix. The breakthrough ignited him. He spent the winter meticulously preparing, hungry for a championship bid. When 1970 dawned, Rindt was poised and determined, a perfect storm of skill, experience, and confidence. The 1970 season began at the sun-baked streets of Monaco, a fitting arena for a myth in the making. Rindt lined up on the front row, but surprisingly, in an old Lotus 49 rather than the new 72C. The crowd was puzzled, but Rindt had a plan. When the lights went out, he unleashed his masterstroke. For much of the race, he trailed leader Jack Brabham by about 15 seconds. But then Rindt began to chip away with blistering laps. He was setting track records every lap. Spectators held their breath as the gap steadily closed. Finally, on the last lap's final corner, Rindt pounced. His Lotus shot inside Brabham's Brabham, nudging the champion offline. Brabham slid into the wall, and Rindt roared past to claim the win. The Monaco Grand Prix had seen one of the greatest last-lap passes in history, and the street circuit crowd erupted as the Austrian underdog crossed the finish line first. The emotions of that Monaco weekend were overwhelming. Rindt climbed from the podium with tears in his eyes, joy and relief mingling under the Mediterranean sun. But just days later, racing's dark side returned. News arrived that two of Rindt's friends, Bruce McLaren and Piers Courage, had been killed in separate accidents. The euphoria of victory turned to grief. At home, life carried on. Rindt's wife, Nina, gave birth to their first child, a daughter named Natasha. Imagine the whirlwind, triumph, funeral, newborn, all in a matter of weeks. For a moment, Jochen Rindt wondered if it was worth it. He considered retiring to raise his family, but speed and destiny had other plans. He climbed back into his Lotus with a steely look in his eye, determined to honor his lost friends by racing on. And race on he did. Over the summer of 1970, Rindt drove as if possessed. He won 4 Grands Prix in a row, each one extending his championship lead. First came Zandvoort in the Netherlands, a victory won under a pall of grief since Courage had died that very weekend. Rindt seemed to win it for Courage's sake. Next, he triumphed at Clermont-Ferrand in France, then at Silverstone in Britain, and then at Hockenheim in Germany. By mid-season, he had won 5 of the 6 Grands Prix he entered, a domination almost unheard of. His points lead was now colossal. Rivals and fans whispered that the championship was all but sealed. In July 1970, Rindt returned to Austria for the Zeltweg Grand Prix. The home crowd cheered wildly as he took pole position, but heartbreak was still lurking. An engine failure took him out early in the race. It was one of the few bad moments for Rindt that year, but he barely blinked. His focus remained unshaken. By the time August ended, everyone in F1 knew Rindt's points were astronomical. He went into the final race at Monza with a monstrous lead. Only a miracle could stop him now, yet fate had one more twist in store. September 5, 1970, a bright Friday morning in Monza. The circuit was buzzing as Rindt headed out for final practice. His Lotus 72 was set up without wings for maximum speed, nearing 330 km/h down the straight. But on Rindt's 5th flying lap, disaster struck. A front brake shaft on his Lotus snapped. Driver Denny Hume, running close behind, later described what he saw. Rindt's car suddenly veered violently. It struck the metal guardrail at Parabolica, and the barrier itself crumpled under the impact. The Lotus's nose sheared off against a support pillar. Rindt, who had loosened his harness straps for a quick escape, was thrown forward and slid under his belt. The crash was devastating. Team boss Bernie Ecclestone was among the first on the scene. All he could salvage from the wreck was Rindt's battered helmet and a single race shoe. Rindt was fatally injured and was pronounced dead on the way to the hospital. The paddock fell silent at the news. Lotus immediately withdrew from the rest of the weekend. No celebration was possible. But in the tally of the championship, Rindt's story was not yet over. He had amassed so many points, he had won 45 points worth in 5 races, that even in death, he could not be caught. His closest rival, Jackie Ickx, fought valiantly. Ickx won in Canada and closed the gap, but it still wasn't enough. At the finale in the United States, a young Emerson Fittipaldi surprised the field by winning. That result meant Ickx could not score the points needed to overtake Rindt. When the checkered flag dropped on the season, it was a ghost who had won. Jochen Rindt was crowned world champion. He became Formula One's first, and to this day only, posthumous world champion. In Graz, Rindt's hometown, a hero's funeral was held on 11th of September, 1970. Friends, fans, and fellow drivers paid their respects. Swedish champion Joachim Bonnier captured the mood with a simple truth. To die doing something that you love to do is to die happy. Regardless of what happens in the remaining Grands Prix, to all of us, Jochen is the world champion. Those words rang around the paddock. For that one weekend in 1970, Rindt's championship was more than a points total. It was a testament to honor and passion that no living racer could challenge. Rindt's death, coming in a season that had already claimed Bruce McLaren and Piers Courage, finally jolted Formula One into confronting its dangers. It was a shock acutely felt across the sport. In fact, Rindt himself had been at the forefront of safety concerns. Earlier that year, he joined Jackie Stewart in demanding changes to the Nürburgring Nordschleife due to poor barriers. After Courage's accident, Rindt helped lead the drivers in calling to cancel the German GP there. The race was moved to Hockenheim, while Nordschleife was upgraded for safety. Over the next years, the sport introduced sweeping improvements: fuel cells, stronger chassis, better barriers, advanced helmets, and harnesses, all part of an urgent drive to protect drivers. In a grim sense, Rindt's tragic loss helped accelerate that transformation. He had campaigned for these changes alongside champions like Stewart, and although he didn't live to see them take full effect, his influence endures every time safety laps are improved. But Jochen Rindt's legacy was not only safety. In Austria, he became a national hero, the driver who first put his country on the F1 map. His success in 1970 sparked a boom of interest in racing back home. He even became a local celebrity. He hosted a TV show called Motorama and organized exhibitions of race cars in Vienna, sharing the thrill of motorsport with the public. After his death, tributes flowed. The Austrian Grand Prix circuit even named a corner Jochen Rindt in his honor. Trophies and awards were dedicated to his memory. On the 30th anniversary of his passing, a bronze plaque was placed in Graz. Whenever his name is spoken today, Austrians think of courage and charisma, the two qualities Rindt embodied on every lap he raced. In the end, Jochen Rindt's story is both inspiring and bittersweet. It shows how sport can forge legends even from tragedy. He achieved greatness and paid the ultimate price, a sobering reminder that champions are never truly invincible. Yet in every roar of an F1 engine, in the cheers that greet each new race, his spirit still lives on. To this day, young drivers hear of the man who won a championship from beyond the grave, and they feel the fire in their own bellies. Rindt's legacy reminds us that in racing, as in life, courage, passion, and determination endure far longer than any trophy. Jochen Rindt's story didn't end at Monza. It lives on in every safer car, every braver lap, and in a championship that proved greatness can outlast a lifetime. If this moved you, share your thoughts below, leave a like, and subscribe for more F1 histories.